Do I have to
Hello,
click that?
everybody, and welcome to the Yoga in My School podcast. I'm Donna Freeman, and it's a pleasure to have you here listening and maybe even watching on YouTube today for this episode. And I want to thank you for listening, and thank you for those of you who've taken time to write reviews and to share with a friend. And hopefully today's episode will continue to add to your enrichment as a kids yoga professional, or if you're interested in kids yoga, or if you're interested today in writing a kids yoga book. Because we are going to be chatting today with Susan Rose, and she has written a beautiful book called Let's Make a Rainbow. And when she approached me to say, hey, I wrote this book, and I was like, awesome, because let's talk about the process of writing a book and what that entails. For example, I wrote a Once Upon a Pose in 2008, 2009, something like that. Things have changed a little bit in the pursuing years. And so this is a nice little update on what's happening in the publishing world, in the author world, and all that kind of goodness. So without further ado, welcome Susan Rose. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
It's a delight to have you. So tell us and tell our listeners a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm from Indiana, and I grew up as a dancer and a gymnast, and was a gymnastics coach, owned a gymnastics school, coached college level gymnastics. And then I sort of got out of that and became an elementary PE teacher for about 17 years, which I really enjoyed. I sort of transitioned out of that when we moved down to Florida. But at the same time, I was starting to get a little more interested in yoga and got my yoga kids training. So my PE sort of morphed into teaching yoga for kids, which I'd already been doing in the PE curriculum, but then I got trained and knew a little bit more about it and sort of developed that. So down here in Florida before the pandemic, shut everything down, I was at about 4 or 5 different libraries and a couple of yoga studios, rec centers, that sort of thing, doing either monthly or weekly classes with kids.
Fun. And I love combining literacy.
When I did the yoga kids training, I also was yes. I did workshops for yoga kids, tools for schools, and Taste of Yoga Kids workshops, and was a mentor for their training program about 8 years ago, I guess it was. So now I'm just sort of focused on teaching kids and getting back into the libraries and some of the schools and writing my kids' yoga books.
Fantastic. So what inspired you to go from being a teacher of children and a coach of children to becoming an author? Like that's quite a shift.
It is. And I've always been an avid reader and loved books. And within my yoga kids classes, I always, or almost always, had a theme, and that was based on a book. So I would take a book, that's the theme of the class, find the music that goes with it, and kind of build everything around the book. And there's some really great ones out there, but it sort of got where I wanted to put my own spin on that. And I had written little pose poems, like tree pose poem or warrior pose poem, that I was using with some of the classes. You know, we'd read the poem, and the poems have the directions on how to do the pose sort of built into the poem. And then when everything got shut down, I had nothing to do. And I cleaned, and I painted the house. I mean, just all kinds of, crazy stuff last March. And then I thought, maybe I should. It's kind of been in the back of my mind for a while that maybe those poems could become a book. And I got them out and looked at them again, wrote a couple more, and decided that I was going to get it published.
All right. So like that's a process, right? And I love how you say that it kind of percolated for a little while, that you thought about it for quite a while. You'd done, some work, but it was kind of bringing it all together in a theme and then getting it published. Like, it's like, yeah, let's just get it published. So first of all, let's dive into, how did you find, let's start with an illustrator, because having your poems is one thing, having pictures to go with the poems is something completely different.
Yes, and I have zero artistic, writing or that illustrating talent at all, nothing. So there are lots of people out there. First of all, you need to decide what style. So do you want whimsical or cartoonish or realistic? And mine are pretty realistic. So you start looking on eBay or Etsy, Facebook groups. I mean, there's so many out there that you can just start to see who's doing what. And what I did was when I found somebody I kind of liked, I'd print out something of theirs, and I made a big board and I'd stick it up there, and kind of like a vision board. Like, I'm gonna put that up there and put that up there, and then, look at them for a while and see which one's really speaking to me. And with my second book, I found out it's like I did the first one kind of on my own, and now I've been in a group, an authors group, that I'm learning how I should have done it the first time. But they say to get a sample. So you find maybe 3 that you really like, and you contact the illustrator and ask them to do a sample for you. And you pay them maybe $50 for a sample of the main character or a scene that would be important. And then you can kind of see what your concepts look like with their art. And from there, eventually you have to make a decision. And it's scary. It's kind of like you're marrying this person for a while, or you're going to be really involved with them. And you sign a contract and make it all legal, and then you get started.
Fantastic. And I'm sure that there's an interesting learning curve there, like with the negotiations, with the contract, with the, like, you're making it sound very easy. And I don't think it's easy.
I'm sorry?
You're making it sound very easy, and I don't think it's easy.
No, it's not. No, it isn't. It really isn't. And the thing is, writing it is the easy part. That's putting the words on paper and getting that organized. That was the easiest part. So you do the writing and the editing and have it professionally edited. Then you move into the publishing part, which is getting the files organized. Like, once the illustrator has, you go back and forth with the illustrator. That's the biggest time and the biggest expense of a children's picture book, is the illustrations. I tell them kind of what I want. They show me what they do. We go back and forth. No, I need that. And with the yoga, I needed to make sure the poses were correct. And it would help if I could find an illustrator that really knew a lot about yoga. I found some that know a little bit about yoga, but so I'm directing that. She's showing me what she's doing. It's a lot of back and forth. You get those finished. Then those illustrations go to your graphic designer. So really you have an illustrator and a graphic designer. And the graphic designer takes your text and he lays it over the illustrations, and he can move things around. It's really fascinating. They work in Photoshop, and there's layers to it. So they can like take that layer out and move it. That's like art, which I have no idea how they really do it. I watched the guy do my cover, and it was like, oh my God, you can do that. You took a head off one kid, put it on the body of another, took eyes off the girl earlier in the book, put it on. It's amazing. So they do all that. Then they give you the files. They give us the files, and then you're in the publishing process. You're uploading it to Amazon or an offset printer or wherever it's going to go to get it ready to be available to the world.
Okay, so that's my next question. That's my next question. Publisher, how, like when I did publishing, I was self-published, and it was published on demand. And so that's how my book works, is when I want more copies, I phone my publisher and I order more copies, and they send me a whole bunch of copies. And when people order copies of my book off of Amazon or another provider of books, they are ordered on demand. Okay. And I know right. Other publishing houses have a contract for so many copies of your book, just start like that. It's a run. And those are very different kind of negotiations and contracts. And are you getting paid, or are you paying the publisher? Like, these are questions. How did you go about your publishing process?
Okay. Yeah, it's confusing. And when you haven't done it before, you just don't know. So there's traditional publishing. Where and they would have to sell you and the book to a publisher, and then they would take it over. You don't do illustrations in that case. So if you just had a manuscript that you wanted to get published, it gets turned over to that publisher, and he finds the illustrator, and you have a little bit of feedback and control, but not much. And then they put the book out. I don't know much more about that because that's not the way I went. I did the self-publishing route where you're in control of everything, but you're also responsible for everything. So, but it is print on demand. So with Amazon, you can upload it to Amazon, and like 70% of books sold today are sold on Amazon. So it's like you've got to be on Amazon. And then there's another company called Ingram Spark that's a print on demand that distributes. So they'll print your books for you, and they'll also distribute them. I don't know how to say this. They don't actually like print the books and go give it. They'll put you on the online, like Barnes and Noble. Like if you went to Barnes and Noble online, you could find my book. If you ordered it there, it would come from Ingram Spark. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. But you can also do offset printing for your own sales. So this time with the new book, I'm going to do an offset printer, and those will be, in my home. So when I can sell them on my website or street fairs or school visits, whatever, I will have those to sell coming directly from the author, which I can sign and personalize and that sort of thing.
Okay. Now, what was the kind of the biggest surprise in this whole process that you were just like, who knew? Like, what? That's how you do this? Okay, let's
do that. Oh, so many. It's like, now that I know these things, it's like, there's so many. I think now I realize how much marketing it takes. In the beginning, I didn't. I'm just going to put that book out there and people will buy it. But people are doing amazing things marketing their books. So now, of course, you have to have a website, but people are doing trailers, like little movie trailers of your book. You can do a full video of your book with narration, which I did that on the first one. You can do activity books. People are doing coloring books. It's just amazing, everything that kind of goes along with it. And the more you do of that, the more people are going to see the book and maybe be interested in buying the book. But people are selling their activity books. Like you can make worksheets for teachers and lesson plans. That's kind of what I'm focusing on, is making lesson plans that go with my books. Word searches, just everything. Anything you can think of that a teacher could use or that the kids would like, the coloring pages. People are doing so much of that to help promote their books.
Yeah, and that's one of the interesting things is when you start, I think you're like, I just need to write a book. And then you're like, oh, now I need to find an editor. Okay, hang on, I need somebody to proof it, or a couple people to proof it. I need someone to edit it. And then there's so many pieces to this. I swear, if someone had told me all the pieces at the beginning, I probably wouldn't have done it. And I really admire the fact that you dove right into a second one. I'm like, yeah, let's just do this again. But yeah, I love that, you learned that it's a whole process, but I like that. The biggest surprise was, oh, now I have to sell this thing.
Well, the first time I had a mentor, and it's a kids yoga teacher that has a book, Betty Larea, that has Lucinda's Magical Yoga Adventure, where she's also a book mentor, a book doula is what she calls it. Because I kept saying it's like birthing a baby, this first book. So she's a book doula. And so I got connected with her, saw her on Facebook, and I said, I know her, I have her book, and she lives 5 minutes away from me. So I hired her in the beginning, and she really helped me edit the poems and pull that into a book rather than just random stuff, made a little bit of a story with it. And then she had a lot of resources for here's how you go about getting your files, and just kind of walked me through the process. And we got the first book out. Second time around, I found this group. Her name is April Cox, and it's 12 weeks to self-publish, which 12 weeks is a little short, but it's a work group. So we're online together in Zoom 2 nights a week. She brings in fabulous people that have expertise in, one little area, so you can really learn, keywords or categories, or just, all that. They were talking about blogs and podcasts today. So I'm with that group, and there's about 30 of us. So there's all that support. So anytime you get stuck, you can go on the Facebook group and say, hey, does anybody know how to do like a QR code? Somebody came right back yesterday and said, here's where you go, and here's how you do that. So this second book has been a lot easier, mostly because I had already done it once and kind of understood things, but just having the support of that group. And April has a lot of contacts, and I used her graphic designer, and it's just made the process a whole lot easier this time around. So now I'm thinking, well, I started a series, so I'm addicted, I guess. I gotta keep going.
I love that. It's like, Susan Verde. So when Susan Verde first started her I Am Yoga series, I interviewed her like after the second book, right? And she's like, oh yeah, it's going to be a group of 3. There's going to be 3 books, and we already have the 3 set out, and she was all set on this, not just 1, but we're going to do 3 books together. And now that gets 5. I just keep laughing at her every time she publishes another one.
Yeah, I'm very familiar. I have her first one. Those are beautiful. Yeah, they say do a series, because 1 book isn't enough. You can't just market 1 book. If you've got 2 or 3, then you've got more material, you've got more things to market. So first book, I didn't know that. And they're not really the same kind of book. So I've got the first book, the Rainbow Book, and now it's starting a new series. But
all right. So tell us about this new book of yours.
Okay. The new book is called Everyone's Good at Something, Yoga Tales from the Gym. And it's set in an elementary PE classroom. And each book will feature a different child that learns something through yoga in PE class. So it's kind of based on me, because I was the PE teacher that was teaching them yoga. And the first one is a true story about a little girl that could not do anything in PE. She couldn't jump rope, she couldn't dribble. She was just like so uncoordinated, could not do anything, about 1st grade, 2nd grade. And I always felt so bad for her, just trying to find something that she could be successful with. Then we did yoga, and suddenly she shined. She just like came to life and could do yoga. She was pretty flexible, and she was just like the star of the yoga class. So that's what this book is based on. So it's, she finds out what she's good at, because she thinks, I'm not good at that. And my brothers and sisters are good at basketball and soccer. But then when she tries the yoga, she slowly realizes, wow, I am good at this. This is, my thing. And again, I wrote it so that the teacher is giving the directions. So someone that didn't really teach yoga could pick it up and read it, and the kids would know what to do. So it's got the description of how to do the poses built in it.
Fantastic.
That's the first one.
That's the first one. And I'm sure you already have an outline for the second.
Yeah, we're working.
Fabulous. All right. So I know for me, it was a very special moment, and I'm sure for you, but tell me about getting the first copy of your book in your hands, and how did that feel?
Oh my God. Well, I videoed it, because they say you should video your unboxing, and then you can put it on Facebook and YouTube and all that. But when I watched that, my face is just like, I am so happy. I haven't been that happy in I don't know how long, just to like open that box and see it after 4 or 5 months of blood, sweat, and tears, to actually have it in your hands. It's just, it was the best feeling in the world. I almost cried. I was just so happy to have it. So I'm sure it'll feel the same way again when I get this one too.
Yeah, it's quite a remarkable feeling. Like you say, there's so much.
It really is.
so much effort that goes into that. And I love that with your books, you're really sharing part of your life, your experience, your expertise, your heart. And I think all authors do this, and they really share their heart in their work. And then it's like a finished product, and you've dreamt it for so long. And yeah, it's a pretty exciting day when it arrives.
So.
All right. And then so I'm going to flip back to this marketing thing. What have you found to be like essential elements of marketing? So if someone's listening today and they're like, okay, I really want to do this. And so how do I wait until I have a book in my hand to start marketing? Like when does the marketing start, and what platforms do I need to be on first?
Well, there's a lot of marketing gurus out there that you can start following. I in the beginning, I was listening to everybody, and then I get kind of overwhelmed with it. But they say before you even write it, meaning you can start creating content and just thinking of ways, start talking about the topic maybe. So this second book is basically yoga for self-confidence and fitness. It's sort of my tagline. I could have gotten started on that with my content a lot earlier, just to start. That's my thing, to kind of brand yourself a little bit. They say it's essential to have an email list. So you've got to have some sort of email server set up, and you've got to have that lead magnet to get people to sign up. The email list, and then you've got to keep feeding the email. You got to keep giving them more content to keep them engaged. There's all of that can be going on before you've even written the book. I joined a lot of Facebook groups. I joined a lot of kids yoga Facebook groups, and a lot of author groups. You can learn a lot just by reading, being a member of these author groups. And in the beginning, I was just like everywhere, and then I finally realized you don't need to know about novels. You need to know about children picture books, and not so much ebooks either, because most people that buy kids books don't buy ebooks. They want the actual book. Like 80% of it is picture book, is in hand, physical book. So there's a lot of stuff out there about ebooks, and I didn't realize in the beginning, I was thinking I needed to do all that. No, I really don't. I use the ebook sort of as a little promotional thing before the hardback and the paperback come out. So you can just start, looking for those groups, join them, start reading comments. And at first, a lot of it went over my head. Like, I have no idea what they're even talking about. But then I'd see it again. I'd say, oh, that's what they're talking. Oh, I get that. And you learn, I can go to that resource for that kind of information. People have courses, they've got free webinars. There's so much out there.
Mm-hmm. And what kind of, I know some people are probably thinking,
I did one school visit.
Yeah. I know some people are thinking, I've got a great idea. I've got all these plans. And yes, I've kind of started with this, but what kind of a time investment, what type of a monetary investment is somebody looking at to get a book in hand?
Well, the biggest is the illustrations. And, if you've got a 28 to 32 page book, you're probably going to pay about $2,000 for illustrations. Now, you might be able to go on Fiverr and find someone fabulous. I wasn't quite willing to try that. Both of my illustrators have been overseas. One was in Israel, and the current one is in the UK. But you're doing everything online, so it doesn't really matter. People that are just putting out an ebook without illustrations, it is not expensive at all, because you just, you've got the file, you've got the manuscript, and you make an EPUB out of it, and you put a cover on it, and you've got an ebook. But the children's books with all of the illustrations makes it a little bit more. So your illustration is really your biggest expense. Copyright, things like copyright, that's not that much. Maybe that was $50. ISBNs, you have to buy the number that catalogs the book. Those are about $125, and you need one for your ebook. You need one for your hardback. You need a different one for your paperback. So you have to have 3 to do one book into 3 formats, but you can buy them in bulk too. That's really the biggest. I mean, I spend a lot of money just on extras that I could probably not do, but I do.
Yes, and like you said, there are courses, there are groups that you can join and those kind of things,
Yes.
which can and may be really helpful to people as they build their community and build their resources and get access to so many things, right? And so, but those are more of a personal decision and how you want to approach. And it's really wonderful that they are available. When I was doing mine, none of that was available. I was all on my own, trying to figure out how to do this thing. It's like, okay.
Yeah. It really helps to have author friends because a lot of them have already been through it once or twice or even more. And they can sort of head you off like you think you're going to do that, but that's not going to work. You need to do it this way, that sort of thing. And just to cheer you on, we join each other's book lunch groups and promote each other. And a lot of them are doing Kickstarters. I haven't done that yet, but I might on the next book. So we're just there to cheer each other on and help and support and do whatever we can.
Yeah, it's really a lovely community of support and inspiration. Instead, a lot of people are like, oh, they're writing a book and I'm writing a book and oh no, it's like, no, it's okay. There's enough.
Every person in this group that I'm in, books are totally different. I mean, just everyone's got their own little niche and it's like kids yoga teachers, it's not competition. It's you're doing your thing, I'm doing my thing, and we can help each other and share our materials or our ideas. And it's a lot like that.
Fabulous. That's wonderful. I love it. I love it. I love it. All right. Do you have any advice for a would-be, wannabe kids yoga author that you would like to share?
Well, they say get it edited. Don't edit your own material. Find an editor. Just believe in what. If you have written something that you believe in, then believe in it and go with it, because it could be something special. It could be something that somebody else needs to hear. It's unique to you. Like I said, everyone in our author group has their own unique thing going on. And, it's like everybody has a story to tell. So don't think that your story isn't important.
Fabulous. Probably one last kind of caveat is, are you going to grow rich and retire a millionaire now that you've published books?
No, my grandson, he's like 7 or 8 at the time, his mom said, Grandma Susan wrote a book. Oh, she's going to be rich. Like, no, she's not. Yeah, people don't realize the margins. When we sell on Amazon, when you buy a book on Amazon, I would say, especially with the picture book, the author might be getting $1.50 a book. Now, when we print our own books and we sell them on our website, margin's a little bit higher. But yeah, you're not going to. I mean, if you're a huge best-selling author, you might, but that's not why I'm doing it, obviously.
Yeah, I always tell people that too. I'm like, yeah, I get my royalty checks, and they're like, hey, dinner.
Yeah. Dinner, cup of coffee. Yeah. I've spent a whole lot more. Yeah, I don't even know what my break-even point is because I don't even want to know. I'm just like, oh, I've sold a couple more books. But, I'm hoping as I get more books and get a little bit more savvy on the marketing that it will grow. And I'm really trying to get this series into the hands of PE teachers so that they have a reference that they could use. They could pick up that book and say, oh, I'm going to do a little yoga class today, and I've got all the instructions right here, and it's a little story about a girl that's in a PE class, and I'm hoping that it'll appeal to them and that they can use it as a good resource.
I love it. I love how you've not only, it's a picture book, which is niche, then it's a yoga picture book, which is niche, and then it's like, we're not even that. We're going for the phys ed teachers.
It's for PE
Drill
teachers.
down into that niche.
I think a lot of them would like to do more yoga, but they haven't been trained and they don't have resources to do it. So, and I know a lot of them with the pandemic were using YouTube videos for it, but it's nice to have a story in a book and you can tie in some literacy with that.
Yeah. And I love the message. Everybody's good at something, and you just got to keep trying things out. You'll find it. Just keep trying.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. Yeah. And I mean,
Fantastic.
it's based on an actual little girl that I taught.
Yeah. So when can we expect this wonderful, everyone is good at something to be out?
Everybody is good at something. Ebook comes out June 15th. It'll be free the 16th and the 17th, I think. I've got to get it. I do the freebie, the Kindle Unlimited free thing. And then the hardback and the paperback will be July 20th.
Fantastic.
I'm
sure.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right. Now, for our listeners who want to connect with you, who might have questions for you, because you've been just an absolute wealth of information here for people who are looking at writing and publishing and all that kind of stuff. So how do we get in touch with you?
Okay. My website is SusanRoseYoga.com. Email would be Susan@SusanRoseYoga.com. And I'm on Instagram at Susan Rose Author. And I'm on Facebook at Susan Rose Author. So yeah, I'd love to get in touch. If you have questions that I can help with or point you in the right direction, I'd love to do that.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. It is wonderful to see you blossom as not only a kids yoga instructor, but to take that love of many things of your entire life and put them into tools that so many of us can use and enjoy. So thank you very much for following your heart and becoming a kids yoga author.
Thank you for having me. It's a privilege to speak with you.
Well, it's a delight.
Thank you for having me. It's a privilege to speak with you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks, everybody, for listening to this episode of the Yoga in My School podcast. I really would appreciate you sharing this, giving us some feedback. If you have questions for Susan, be sure to reach out to her and buy her book. Darn it, everybody's good at something. Coming out June 15th. It'll be free on Kindle if you want to grab a copy, an e-copy, or July 20th. It's a good summer read. All right. Until next time, everybody, thanks for listening.